we've seen from our treasurer, finance director, and county assessor these last 10 days. I'm hoping that this won't take just a whole long time just to kind of get an overview of county revenue. This is the beginning of the budget process. You can't budget expenditures unless you know how much money you've got to spend. So we try to be as accurate as we possibly can in our projections. There are, actually the only true guidelines are conscious, because we can add, we can take away, we can hide stuff, or we can add stuff, but all to do is just, you just mess yourself up on further down the road when you expend or budget expenditures that you can't properly finance. So we do our damnedest to be as accurate as we can. I talked with Peggy and Kelly and Harley 2 or 3 different times last week about these revenues, because that's where our numbers are generated from. And Kelly emailed them out, but she's given us a little bit larger copy than I was able to print. Makes it just a little bit easier to read for you if necessary. So we've got 4 major sections today: county general, roads, jail, and landfill, the largest being the county general. So looking at the county general revenues and looking at the columns there, you can see the first column is what we actually got for 2019, what we actually got for 2020. In this 331 in the old system, and I don't know, Kelly, what are you talking about, old system versus new system, total year to date 2021?
Yeah, it's mainly to help me more than anything.
Okay.
Because I am having to combine both systems into one place. And if I can at least look at those 2 columns, it's easier for me to check reference and things. So I have what we started the year off with in our old system, and then another column for what we've received since April 1. And then another column just to add that together. So really, for your purposes, you can just look at the total if you want to, the year-to-date total received.
Okay, so pay attention to the first 2 columns, 2019, 2020. Then if you don't care, skip all the way over to the 2021 original. And that'll kind of eliminate some of the clutter there. And then you can see what Kelly's predicted on 2022. Now remember, in the budget process, guys, we can only budget 90% of projected revenues in county general. There are a few exceptions in special revenues where we can budget 100%, but in county general, we only budget 90%. So if we think in the very first line there, state general revenues, we anticipate a total of $231,000. 90% of that, or less than 10, is the $207,900. The big numbers, if you drop down a fourth of the way, local property taxes, in 2019, it was $2,590,000. In 2020, it was $2,798,000. For 2022, she's projected $3,300,000. And then you can see, if you take the 10% away, we can anticipate an actual $2,970,000 that we could actually budget against.
And that's the increases, but largely due to our industrial, our job increase.
Now that's property taxes, so that's what Harley's doing over there. And yes, Harley, does this, and maybe easier to ask Kelly, this does include business personal, doesn't it?
Business, personal, real estate, and utilities. So, and personal, automobiles. And we've noticed this year that automobiles, even though they're used ones, have gone up in value from the vehicle. If you try to go out and buy one right now, you really see that. So,
yeah,
like that. Plus, we did have the normal 10% increase on our real estate this year. So we're up, and business personal is really up because we're starting to see all the efforts of our people that we've hired for that, doing their job and going out and getting it. And we're kind of dogging the farmers these days, I'm sorry. But trying to get them to put down something.
And we just try to let everybody pay
Their fair share.
their fair share and what's correct. Another one that Harley deals directly with is down about 6 lines from the local property, 7211, payment in lieu of tax. That's our payment in lieu of tax. That's our incentives for our,
Okay, that's.
we used to call them Act 9 bonds.
Okay, that's what I was.
Pilot agreements, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pilot
Okay,
agreements,
okay.
payment in lieu of taxes, pilot agreements. And, you can see in 2019, it was 1,348,000. We jumped to 1,466,000. This year, we're looking at 1,450,000. Some of those, they only go for so many years, so there'll be some adjustments up and down. And this is just in county general too. You'll see some payment in lieu of taxes on the jail. We're looking at 166,000 pilot agreement payments in the jail. But that's another good one, and that's another return that we get now that we didn't used to get. When the first new course came in, we got none of that. So.
What are the sheriff's fees? They seem to be going
Well, we didn't have near as many court cases adjudicated this year. COVID.
down. Okay, got it.
Local sales tax is another big. You look at our sales tax numbers. 1,393,430, 1,355,000. Projecting 1,375,000. Kelly, anything on county general and especially you want to point out or look at? Guys, just take just a few minutes, and we're not in a rush here now. Look down through the line items, see where your money's coming from, just for a second. And pay attention to how we take out that 10%. When we go through all our revenues, then the thing that saves us, and one of the places we hurt the worst 10 years ago, was we had no reserves. We had no CDs, and we can add that back into our revenues now. Like, well, Peggy will attest. We paid enough bills and had a slow enough drag in revenue last week. We ended up in the red on county general Friday afternoon. Not a big deal, but we knew we'd been kind of whittling it down. We're moving towards October, which is when people really start paying their taxes. They're due, 10th of October. But we ended up in the red Friday. Plus the fact that we're moving forward, hopefully, on these insurance payments. We budgeted $660,000 to get that process going. Now, they're not going to write checks next week on $660,000. But Peggy went today and cashed in 2 of our CDs that we had back in reserves. One for a little over 500,000, 550, and one for 220 and change. They were the closest ones that were fixing to come due. Peggy, we didn't suffer any penalties on either one of them, did we?
No.
So we suffered no penalties, but it got us about $745,000 in change to put back into county general. Well, that got us up in the green. So we're a little over 700,000, but now the jail is 50,000 in the red. So we're going to have to do a transfer over, and that'll knock us down to about 650. But we did that cashing some of those CDs. So we'll be able to add, the end of all of that is we'll be able to add those CDs back in as revenue.
But the 660 will have to deduct because it's committed. Ordinance, is that right?
No, it's not really, we don't encumber these funds like we encumber in economic development.
Oh, okay.
Because if you did that, we're encumbered $36 million at the beginning of the year because we appropriate all that in the budget.
Gotcha, okay, makes sense, okay.
So it just kind of rolls through.
Could I ask a question about that? Kind of got my curiosity because I'm not familiar with how the money comes in. But for example, line 7203, delinquent personal tax. In 2020, we collected 440,000. They're projecting 400 over here, but we've only collected so far this year 130,000. Does the rest of that come in? Most of that come in at the end of the year?
By the 15th of October.
Okay.
People hold on to it the longest they can. And we've still got, Big River is supposed to have a check due, and several others that haven't paid yet.
He's talking about delinquent.
But on the delinquent,
Delinquent person, I didn't hear the delinquent.
just delinquent.
We just hope for the best on that. On one that, on personal, we really don't have any recourse, except you don't license their vehicle next time. They can't, hadn't paid their taxes, but, there is a way on businesses that, I know Little Rock, over at Pulaski County, the collector over there, pretty ruthless. She went up there and took the camera crew from the local news media and went and locked down one that owed somewhere around $70,000, and she said, told them they had until 11 o'clock. She did that at like 9. Said, you got 11 o'clock, or I'm going to start auctioning off everything in this office, which she has the right to collect taxes. And she only did it one time, surprisingly, a lot of them start paying.
I think what we were talking about is if you look at the 2019 number, it's 519,000, and then if you look at the 2020, it's 440, and year to date, we're at 288.
Okay, so this is
But
one
we
of
have
those,
projected 400,000 for next year.
this is one of those gray areas I was just talking about. That it's our best educated guess. We did get the 500,000 plus in 2019 and 488 there in 2020. All of that comes in late there. That's why it's delinquent, and it comes in late in the year. But so what we do, and the way Kelly comes up with most of our numbers, is she'll prorate it. She goes up to her date and it figures out how much of a percent that is, and then she estimates on that basis what it will be in another 3 months. And
But
so,
on most of these taxes,
huh?
but on most of these taxes, we are getting the bulk in the last quarter of the year.
I think that ain't.
That's
So
what-
it skews the look.
Yeah, no, I understand. I
Yeah.
just, yeah, no.
It just looks low compared to what it had been.
Exactly. Now, and we can raise it, and there's no law or rules against it, but we'd rather err, we usually try to err a little on the low side as on the high side.
It's the same thing with 7201.
Look at 7201.
Well, one year, and I don't know if it was delinquent person or what, but Maverick was late paying.
Oh, yeah.
And that made it really high one year because they didn't pay and they were delinquent.
That's right. Came in after the first year,
So
actually.
use your comparables.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do anything to actually try to collect on that, or we just, what, we're just cross our fingers and hope they pay?
I don't think we know, like I said, we
They pay all
do
year.
whatever we do, penalties and things like that. That's pretty much in the collector's ballpark. I do it.
That was unusual for them to not pay.
Well, and sometimes, now you
anyway.
can pay online, I think that's helped some of the person like the,
That pretty well answers what I had question.
Yeah, they just prorate it, and when it's late in this year, then we don't have that to prorate against. So sometimes we end up a little bit low. Now, back, again, I'm gonna go back 10 years again, when we couldn't hardly meet bills, we couldn't hardly make payroll, and we got down to that point, if we were at a place that we thought was a little bit low, we'd actually have to bump it up and let's make our estimate at 500. And we do it on a basis, on a concrete basis, but we grit our teeth and, hold our breath, just, trying to be as close as we possibly could without breaking ourselves.
That line 8401 on the top of page 2, that's in red, that means that the treasurer will be paying us that commission.
Come on, treasurer, talk to us.
No, you started that the other day, Mike.
I said the same
Oh,
thing.
did you? He hadn't said a word to me today.
Yeah.
where does that money, the 8601 come from that says assessor expense? What is that?
This,
Assessor expense? Pretty large number, and I don't have any idea where that would come from.
Probably the tax settlement.
Tax
tax settlement, that's what you get, all the money that you spend on me, 90% of the money that comes out of my office and Peggy's office and the collector, y'all get back.
This is like turn back money from the state or something?
No, it's turn back money for the schools and the
School
cities.
systems, okay.
That's see, 90% of our budget comes from the schools and the, city.
Because the millage, okay.
County
Y'all pay
gets it back
10%, so y'all get that money back.
Okay, good.
Sure. Okay.
So why are the SROs on county general if you're not in the jail?
Oh, it's the sheriff's department.
That's it, that's fine.
We're pretty much them the ones that are so good.
Uh-huh.
We hope that they get the money.
Well, it's good.
You're looking at that 87.
Yes. And 8785, yeah.
That's for the jailers, right? That's where it changes.
School resource
Yeah.
officers.
Yeah.
So it's the sheriff's
So that's-
department, not the
goes to
school.
sheriff.
Yeah. That's where I was.
Mhm.
Guys, any other question on county general revenues? Go all the way to the back page of county general then, just to wrap up, we're projecting 10,415,063. And taking 10% of that knocks down a little over $1 million, knocks us down to 9,373,557 that we can actually budget against on the basis of these numbers. Now, these aren't in concrete, and if we get more information, before we pass the budget, we can, alter these. As Kelly sent you in that last email, we changed a little bit in the jail earlier today.
So what about our relief funds? Where do they fall?
They're not, when you say relief fund,
Or
are you-
the rescue.
American Rescue
funds.
Plan monies.
Well, there's a separate fund for those.
It's a
Are you
special
talking about
revenue fund.
the
So
ARP
is it, so it's a
It'll
special
have its own budget.
budget? Oh, okay.
Yes, the
Okay.
ARP money is, I think, 3046, Fund 3046, and I don't have
It's
it.
just,
Yeah,
okay, got it.
and then, the CARES money is like Fund 1005, and it's not, it's
Okay.
just its own separate.
Cause it won't have any revenue numbers anyway, it'll just be payouts, right? Cause we've
No,
already
it'll
collected it,
show-
haven't we?
It'll show the revenue that came in.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we already collected everything, so I didn't think we would have any more for 2020.
In
Well,
CARES
the
or in
CARES
American
we
Rescue
did.
Plan?
American
Yes.
Rescue.
Oh, we might.
The
Yeah.
ARP money, we've gotten half of it, or about half.
Yeah.
We've gotten more.
Okay.
And the way it was written, it was supposed to be within 12 months of receipt of the first check. Could be earlier, could be, 12 months, but it was supposed to be within 12 months of the receipt of the first check. Originally.
Okay.
Now, later on, we may show some transfers over, where we pay bills out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll pay its own little like
Okay.
landfill, or like the jail.
Well, and like the courthouse too.
The courthouse, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at the jail, that's a special revenue fund, and yeah, you're gonna note where the revenues come from here in just in lieu of our previous conversation. Any question on county general revenues, guys? I know I'm not trying to push you, but it is kind of quick to look at everything. Let's move on to road revenues. You can take this home, and we're gonna meet again next Monday. So you can bring your questions next Monday also. This was gonna give us our first real overview of everything. On the road department, road revenues. Our biggest single item is state highway use tax, again projected in that $1.2 million with, $1,080,000 being 90%. Second largest is local property taxes. That's 7201 under the road department. Did you find it, Harbans?
I did now.
First.
I get my stuff kind of lined out, and then I expect everybody just has already done it too, just reading my mind.
And the judge does this.
The judge has complete and total control over the road department and its expenditures. Now, when you say the judge does this, he actually allows Kelly
Oh, okay,
to kind of put the revenues together, because
okay,
it'd be difficult for his office, to be
gotcha.
quite honest. So Kelly or whoever our finance director has been has prepared the road revenues and kind of give them an idea of what they've got to spend. And then the judge normally will work with the road superintendent, who in this case is Tony Stone. And then they'll go over it. You know, last year we asked the judge, on the basis of his first year or two, to kind of make some adjustments and get it more real.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't spending hardly anything in asphalt, but he was spending a pile over in gravel and the paving. And so we just asked him to get a little more real, and he'll have an even better idea on it. But as far as the revenues are concerned, that pretty much comes out of financial management. With that, Kelly gets our numbers from the treasurer and the assessor. And history. You know, Harley, before you leave office one of these days, I'm gonna buy you a horn. You know, one of those little squeaky things.
Okay.
Well, I just want to give you an opportunity to toot your own horn and the work that you've done in your office and the increase in revenues that we've seen over the last 5 years. A lot of it has been because of y'all's push into business personal.
Yeah.
And then you're staying on top of the pilot agreements the last couple of years, and keeping them current and to date.
The strange thing about that is when I started in '87, 3 months after it, Jim Tompkins asked me, he said, I want you to go over and see if you find out about that American Greetings and any other Act 9. And I guarantee it was looking like looking for a needle in a haystack. Nobody knew nothing. Where was any contracts? It was big as and I always wondered why we weren't involved in pilot agreements. So, just in the last 5 years, we've been, well, it's been actually shoved in my lap, but at least I know what's going on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Kelly, we got a question on property relief tax trust fund. Are you familiar enough with the second line item on the road department budget?
Peggy would be more.
Peggy.
What the revenue.
You see what we're talking about, 7004? 65,000, 68,000. To date, we're at 55,791.
Property tax, that's what we get from,
The relief trust fund.
I don't know if that should really say trust fund or not. Property relief tax is just money we get from that's money we get from the state.
Okay, state
Yeah.
state turnback, basically.
Yeah.
How come on the first item on the second page, 7002, how come it's so much higher than it was in 2019? It's highway revenue turnback. It was really low in 2019, it jumped up
I
significantly.
think it was first established in 19. It was just a partial year.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's very new. Yeah.
Okay.
All good questions, guys.
Where, Michael, Then 7075, fourth one down, $670,000 on that, 4-lane stuff. That's state money.
Yes, it is.
Does the county have any 4-lane roads that we can spend that on? I know they had a big problem in Little Rock. The judge ruled against them. They were using money they weren't supposed to widen the road, and he made them quit and pay it back. Does the county have any 4-lane highways that can be used on? I guess you have to cooperate with the state or.
Yeah, we'd have to, secure those projects through the state. Really, the only 4-lane highway we've got right now is 18.
That's what I'm wondering.
It's a state highway.
So that means basically that money's gonna have to be spent on Highway 18 somewhere.
Is that wrong? I mean, so that's the only place you can use it is on a 4-lane?
Yeah, they had a big lawsuit in Little Rock, and federal judge got involved. They were using, some of this money to widen that, 630
Yeah.
and all that, and he stopped it and told them they had to pay it back, and they did. Now, they're going ahead with the work, but they're getting the money somewhere else.
That's a lot of money if we can only use it on highway.
That's what I started to say, I hope there's somewhere where we can use that.
Maybe we need to put in a couple more lanes.
All the interstate.
I was gonna.
I was thinking of
That bumper.
Boulevard it and
Yeah,
roll.
they
I
let
could
us
use the
do
4-lane
that.
out of Carson Lake.
I thought that gravel road was 4-lane.
Anyway, I hope we can use it, be ashamed to let it
See it?
Yeah.
sit. They'll probably figure out somewhere.
Is it just accumulating?
That's honestly another kind of reasonably new tax.
It's real.
Then does it just sit there?
No, we've been extending it, because if you look, well, let's look at, it is 7075.
Basically, what was so interesting about that case, they were widening a 4-lane highway to a 6-lane highway. He said, no, when the people approved this, they said 4-lane roads.
Oh, wow, okay.
So,
You won't be able to tell on that, you don't have the expenditures on that, do you?
That's a lot, we took in 650 in 2019.
What I was looking was the fund balance, though.
For
Yeah,
2,000?
Well, for that particular line. item.
Well, we don't have that with us today.
Okay, we'll talk about it next week.
That's a good question, because it is.
But we can also look it up and see exactly what all it says
Yeah,
it
I
can be
just hope
spent
we can
for.
spend it.
The local,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know,
is that just coming from the, like, on here, 7201? Doesn't it show that we received, but is that coming like from the other, I don't see any numbers in the local from 7201
Oh, yeah.
across?
Yeah, well, we're projecting $1 million this year.
Yeah, like total received, it doesn't say, doesn't have anything in the actual in there.
Well,
Is it
there was an
coming from
issue
the-
with Katie's report, and
Oh.
for some reason, when she sent it to me, the 7201s didn't show up. So I just, instead of trying to rerun that and then import it in and all that, I just put the total. So the total that we have received is 315,758. But that is another one of those that we get the bulk in the fourth quarter, so.
We got to still move the landfill revenues. This is a short and sweet one. We have Justice Burge with us. Well, I can't tell you how glad I am to have you back.
I'm happy to be back. Am I happy to be back?
So,
Revenue on the landfill is most of you can see it runs pretty true, and this year it's running about the same. I always just figure on top of my head, $300,000 a month, about 3.6 million, and it averages pretty close to that.
in our landfill trust fund, we have $934,712.29. The landfill CD has $250,000. Did y'all not move in your committee last time to add another $250,000?
No, that's the first 250,000.
That's the first one, so it is.
It was moved in August, I believe.
Okay,
And we're gonna try to move another 250 in December.
okay, that's where I got that then. Your banking account is $783,000.
Yeah, it's actually a little more than that because that, you have money coming in every day and I don't know if that includes the August receipts or not.
That's balance as of today.
Okay.
So today, yeah, that 9/13. But anyway, so are we through paying for the, I know I'm jumping to expenditures, are we through paying for that last set?
Yes, it is. All paid for.
And got through with our head above water and vehicle broke
And then bought a new truck and we've got a small excavator on the way, about 200,000.
Okay, I'll not jump to expenditures. I got all kinds of questions, but we'll look at that in a couple of weeks. Guys, any questions of Justice Burge on landfill revenues? Oh, let's look at the fun one. Look at jails. Keep in mind, Justice Ash is still in the room.
Don't know.
I didn't know he was.
He tried to fake you out. He left while
He's
ago for
smart
a few
enough to
seconds.
stay.
But then he slipped back in and see if we can be talking about it. You know, the jail has always been a toughie, and I don't know, Justice Ash, you were here when we were having to deal with the jail fee issue, weren't you, son?
Yes.
You know, we dealt for years over the jail fee issue. So when we built that jail that we have out there, we figured out about how much it was gonna cost, which was about $14 million. And we projected how much a 1 cent sales tax would take, how long it would take to build that jail. And we passed that special revenue tax just for building the jail. But we knew that going from the jail that we had, the old jail, up to the new jail, it was gonna take a lot more money to operate that jail. So when we went to the people and asked for the 1 cent to build the jail, we also went with the caveat that we would like to hold on to 1/4. 3/4 of it would set as soon as we had the jail built and paid for, but we would hold on to 1/4 cent for jail maintenance and operations. And that ended up biting us a little bit because it was misinterpreted to say that that 1/4 cent was gonna operate the jail, and it doesn't even come close. We were already, in the old jail, we were expending $500,000 to $600,000 a year. And so it caused us quite a bit of discord in the county, that 1/4 cent sales tax for jail maintenance and operation. But we did overcome it, and we have come to agreements, and things have worked out for everybody, I hope. Now you can see in local sales tax, we have $1,720,000. But as you go down, jail fees state 220, and then note that she's projecting 220 against actual in 2019 at 342. Actual in 2020 was 148. The state made some changes in the way they were doing things and greatly reduced our inmate population out there, which affected our income and keeping the jail open. So you got the sales tax, you've got the jail fees, then there's really not any major stuff. You notice, Bible had to pay back $900,000 in arrears when we had that settlement come through, but we're only projecting $25,000 this year from Bible.
Well, I guess the pandemic has caused all that, but if you look at the numbers in 19 and 20, and then look what has come in this year, I assume the pandemic has changed all
It's
that.
changed a lot of things. But the one that y'all are gonna chew on just a little bit is 8801. So we've always had to take out a county general to supplement the jail. In 2019, it was $1,271,000. It jumped to almost $1.5 million in 2020. based on the way things have been tracking, we were, looking at 1.8, now they're projecting 2 million.
Why is it, I mean, we've seen,
Why is our transfers getting larger? Because the other receipts have been getting less, like, jail fees. You know, it's just one little deal, the jail fees, and also, that 900,000 meant that we didn't have to do the transfers.
what's wrong with you?
You know, we didn't have to expend that money in transfers that year.
Was that in 19 or 20?
That's, 19.
19.
So, what's the,
We did carry some
I
over
was
into
gonna
20.
say, based on those numbers, it makes me curious, yeah, but it makes sense.
so the Act 1188 money, so isn't that the, what's that? Is that the quarter on all the tickets or whatever?
Kelly, you remember the Act 1188 or Peggy? Either one?
We get that money from the municipalities.
Yeah, for the, we on the, for every ticket
Yeah.
they write, they give, what is it, a quarter or something? How much is it that goes to the jail? For $25?
I think it's $25.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, you're right.
Yeah.
We were able to tack that on legally, and we just.
But we take that money out of that fund and transfer it when the jail is in the red first, before we take out a county general too.
Well, I was just thinking about how, look at the difference from 19 to 20. To 20 to 22.
Last year's just affected like 6 figures now. So
I mean,
they
that's-
weren't stopping, you know.
I assumed a lot of that was pandemic, you know, because
What about,
first case in Arkansas last year was last night in March 11. So most of the year was.
Yeah.
So what that does is that indicates a loss of revenue due to the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Okay, also is the same thing from, where it says transfer from communication? What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that,
We take from there too. Sheriff's Communication Fund, we transfer the money from there. We leave, I think, $5,000 in that fund, but the rest of it, we transfer it to the jail
Where does it come
first.
from? What generates that money?
Marcia turns it in on her sheriff's report. I mean, I don't know where it actually comes from, but it's just a fund on her sheriff's report.
and then we transfer, in 2020, from the coronavirus relief fund, 123,000. Which made it
Yeah.
less, okay, which made us transfer less. Okay, so if you didn't have that, then we would have been at. We have about 1.8 where we were at.
Guys, any questions on the jail revenue? We're here to chew on. You know, revenue's gotta be as strong.
Thought you done spent that $400,000. Saved it, spent it all, you saved it all in one.
All in one blow. Kelly, talk to us about revenues in general now. What else do we have to look at that is not presented here?
Well, most of the time, I didn't include everything today, because most of the time when I work one-on-one with the elected officials and they have their automations, we deal with that then. You know, we'll look at their revenues for their automations and see what they wanna do about their expenses. So, I mean, overall, I think if we can just get there's gonna be so many changes, cause it all depends on, like, some of these things depend on what you do with the jail and the sheriff's department, what those reimbursements are going to be, you know, just different things, so. It's just fluctuating from now until November.
Did you send that letter that I wrote out to all the JPs also?
Yes.
Y'all got a copy of the letter I asked, just requesting the department heads, that's all I was doing, just asking them to get started. And trying to encourage them as strongly as I could from this position to please get started, because that truly is, once we get started on the expenditure budgets, that's the whole bag. It's just not having the expenditure budgets to look at. So I'm hoping everybody works. Have you had much talk about them from any of the department heads and stuff?
No, but I'm still working on getting all the,
Worksheets?
yeah, the worksheets out. But, you know, I send out the monthly reports. They can start looking at, you know, they can start looking at that and see what the original budget was for 2021, where they're at year to date, and then start coming up with some, you know, some thoughts on it. Yeah. And then if they, especially if they already know, some upcoming expenses that are gonna be out of the ordinary, that would help if we knew all that.
That's special request.
And then, you know, as soon as I can get them emailed out, then they can start filling in those blanks and then sending it right back. But
What we're talking about is she prepares just a play worksheet like this with blank columns in there. And they can look at 2019, 2020, and then, you know, yeah, kind of go from there. Well, do I need to add a little bit or can I take away a little bit? So,
I used to not have to completely make them from scratch. This year I'm having to, so
the new software system.
it's been difficult.
But now, when you have that done, you want to do it again next year, wouldn't you?
I don't think they're gonna be the same. They're not the budget sheets that we'll have when everything is in one system. I don't think it'll be quite the same as what we're used to, no. So,
She's got them spoiled. Financial management is spoiled our people and trying to make it as easy for them as we possibly can. So they're waiting, a lot of them are waiting on their worksheets to get started. But they'll take their budgets and start looking at them, they can start penciling in some numbers that they care to. Revenues are easy. We're done today as far as I'm concerned, but y'all got any questions? Next week is the 20th, and that'll be our regularly scheduled monthly finance committee meeting. That will take care of normal monthly business if we have anything to present to the full court on the 28th. But we'll also try to wrap up our little bit of revenue, look at any changes Kelly might make, any more numbers that she'll bring to us. We'll do that next Monday also. The following Monday will be the 27th, and we will not meet because we'll meet the 28th in our regular meeting, but then on October 4th, and then based on that letter again, I'm trying to give them 3 to 4 weeks to start working on our budget, and we'll start trying in earnest, and we'll push as hard as we can based on what we get in to move forward on the expenditure budgets.
We'll meet every Monday after that, right?
We'll meet every Monday after that unless something happens and we have to shift. We're flexible, but you gotta kind of set a time schedule.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys? Harley, any comments? Peggy? Kelly? Thanks for coming, appreciate it, guys. We're adjourned.
Yes.
Well,